Jeff Bezos is the richest man on the planet. He's worth an estimated $110 billion. He founded Amazon, which is worth $1 trillion. In this video, I'm going to delve into the traits of Jeff Bezos to find out if his success is due to nature or nurture. Bezos was born Jeffrey Preston Georgeson to a 17-year-old mum named Jacqueline and Ted Georgeson, who owned a small bike shop. Bezos doesn't speak much about his father, who was just 18 years old when Bezos was born. However, a few things are clear. Firstly, he only agreed to marry Bezos' mum after he found out she was pregnant. The marriage lasted just 17 months. His mum moved in with her parents because Georgeson stayed out late and drank too much and was generally an inattentive father and husband. He agreed to a divorce and paid a small amount of child support when he had the money. 3 years after the divorce, Jacqueline married another man, a Cuban immigrant named Miguel Bezos. He taught himself English and went on to work at Exxon as an engineer. Miguel adopted Jeff, and Jeff took his last name, Bezos. Georgeson completely dropped out of contact with Jeff, and in the 1990s interview with Wired, Jeff said, "I've never met him, although in reality, he lived with him for the first year of his life. As far as I'm concerned, my dad is my natural father. The only time I ever think about it genuinely is when a doctor asked me to fill out a form." Georgeson has a similar attitude about Bezos. Brad Stone from Bloomberg Businessweek tracked down Georgeson. Georgeson, now 70 years old, owns a bike shop in Glendale, Arizona. He had no idea what I was talking about. Georgeson said he didn't know who Jeff Bezos was and was baffled by my suggestion that he was the father of this famous billionaire. Stone had to pull up photos from the internet on his phone to explain. The old man's face flushed with recognition. "Is he still alive?" he asked, not yet fully comprehending. His eyes filled with sorrow and disbelief. Georgeson said when he was young he wasn't a good father or husband. He's now quit drinking, sorted himself out, and opened his new bike shop. He's married, but has no other children apart from Bezos. However, despite Bezos' strange father, he was still part of a happy home. In a recent tweet, Bezos said, "I've won the lottery with my mom. Thanks for literally everything." Her and his adoptive father were both very supportive about Bezos' life. Bezos showed resourcefulness from a very young age while working on his grandparents' farm. "I help fix windmills, vaccinate cattle, and do other chores. We also watch soap operas every night, especially Days of Our Lives."
The value of resourcefulness, right, and self-reliance. How do you apply that to the work that you do on a daily basis? How do you?
Well, I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs and people pursuing dreams and passions in this God. The whole point of moving things forward is you run into problems, you run into failures, things don't work, you have to back up and try again. Each one of those times when you have a setback and you back up and you try again, you're using resourcefulness, you're using self-reliance, you're trying to invent your way out of a box. She has this great saying, she says, "I would much rather have a kid with 9 fingers than a resourceless kid." And which I just think is a fantastic attitude about life.
How did you go through making the decision to drop what was a very good job and take this chance? It all seems very obvious now, right? This many years later that it paid off, but at the time it was not obvious.
No, it wasn't. And I did do a lot of soul searching. I went to my boss at the time, and I really liked my job. And I told my boss I was going to go do this thing, start an internet bookstore. For me, the right way to make that kind of very personal decision, because those decisions are personal. They're not like data-driven business decisions. They are, what does your heart say? And for me, the best way to think about it was to project myself forward to age 80 and say, look, when I'm 80 years old, I want to have minimized the number of regrets that I have. I don't want to be 80 years old in a quiet moment of reflection, thinking back over my life and cataloging a bunch of major regrets. And I think that regrets, our biggest regrets, in most cases, you can murder somebody, okay, you'd regret that. But in most cases, our biggest regrets turn out to be acts of omission. It's paths not taken, and they haunt us. We wonder, what would have happened? I loved that person, and I never told them. And then they married somebody else. I didn't do this, And so that's the frame of mind that I put myself in. And once I did that, once I thought about it that way, it was immediately obvious to me. I knew that when I'm 80, I would never regret trying this thing that I was super excited about and it failing. If it failed, fine. I would be very proud of the fact when I'm 80 that I tried. And I also knew that it would always haunt me if I didn't try.
Do something you're very passionate about, and don't try to chase what is kind of the hot passion of the day. You guys will find that you have passions, and having a passion is a gift. I think we all have passions, and you don't get to choose them. They pick you, but you have to be alert to them. You have to be looking for them. And when you find your passion, it's a fantastic gift for you because it gives you direction, it gives you purpose. You can have a job, or you can have a career, or you can have a calling. And the best thing is to have a calling. And if you find your passion, you'll have that, and all your work won't feel like work to you.
Certainly the story you've told about having seen the moon landing in 1969, right? So this is Pop again.
That's Christina, right?
That's our sister on the floor. So this was a very familiar setting for us. Anytime Pop was watching TV, he was laying on he had perfectly good furniture. I could see it, but
he liked to lay on the floor.
Laid on the floor to watch television.
Yeah.
And you remember a scene exactly like this when you were watching the lunar landing.
Yeah. No, that was his posture. Yeah, and I do think you never know exactly, you don't choose your passions choose you, how they are formed, you're never completely sure, but I do think you get imprinted somehow early on with certain things, and you just get excited about them, and because you're excited, you pay more attention, and they grow. And that's spaces like that for me. I watched Neil Armstrong step onto the moon when I was 5. If I collaborated with somebody here in this audience and I said, look, I want you to solve world hunger, and I want you to do it in 5 years, you would properly reject the opportunity. You would say, look, it's not possible, it's not practical. But if I said, look, I want you to solve world hunger in 100 years, that's a job you'd take, because it's a much more addressable problem. You can first create the conditions. You have time to create the conditions where then you can solve the problem. And so that's a very important way of thinking, and I find it works with everything. I mean, you have to back up and find the right time horizon for what you're trying to do. But at Amazon, we probably do most of our things. We expect to get some results in sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But we find a lot of our other companies that compete against us in various ways, they're often trying to get things done in 2 or 3 years. And so we can do things that, if everything has to work in 2 to 3 years, then that limits what you can do. If you give yourself the breathing room to say, okay, I'm okay if it takes 7 years, all of a sudden you have way more opportunities.